Welcome back to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm Joey Dwyer here after Vanderbilt's 77-75 loss at Memphis. If Vanderbilt played like this every game, I don't think any of us would really have much of an issue with Jerry Stackhouse's coaching or this team's effort or its personnel. Vanderbilt was really good today. I think this was his best outing of the year, probably by a significant margin, going into a road environment and pushing a top 25 team in front of a sold-out crowd, or at least close to it, on CBS. Says a lot of good things about this team, and I think you learned a little bit about this team and what it could be when it's really going. And even without Venon Lubin on the floor for a lot of it, even without Colin Smith on the floor, Vanderbilt still found a way to be in this game and to have a chance at the end. I think that's really all you can ask as a 16.5-point underdog. And the fact that we're there and that this felt like a scheduled loss, as Jerry Stackhouse would say, is not a good thing, but the way Vanderbilt competed and kept its head above water even when Memphis punched it in the face. Went on a 7-0 run in the second half, I think says some things about this team. Before we talk more about that, I want to shout out our sponsors, The Wash House. Are you dreading laundry day? Is it stealing time to do the things you truly enjoy? Let the laundry professionals at The Wash House take care of that for you. With 2 convenient locations in the greater Nashville area, just drop off your dirty laundry and our professional attendants can give you back the one thing you never have enough of, which is your time. Within 24 hours, you can pick up your nicely folded, fresh and clean laundry ready to be put away. Check out www.washhouseclean. Stop in today and get your time back. Today was probably the first time this season when I felt that Vanderbilt was playing loose, was playing free, and was playing more to try to win the game than to not make a mistake. That's kind of where I think this performance was drawn from. Vanderbilt had nothing to lose going into that gym. I think his energy was high playing in front of that crowd. And you saw with Ezra Magnon, he was up and down the floor, he was flying around, he was making reads, he was dealing with that pressure and exploiting Memphis making poor rotations on the back end and exploiting some poor effort from Memphis throughout the first half. It felt like Vanderbilt came to play more than Memphis did. It was ready to play, and when Memphis did come to play in the second half, Vanderbilt didn't go away, and I think that's probably what I learned the most about this team. You see Vanderbilt football have a fluky start at Georgia, and Georgia comes in the second half and runs Vanderbilt off the field. That didn't happen today. Memphis won with a 7-0 run early in the second half. Vanderbilt countered it with a 6-0 run and then started trading baskets with Memphis behind a few big Jason Rivera-Torres threes. Isaiah West made a play in the lane. Paul Lewis had a really nice pull-up in the mid-range. It was really nice to see that from Paul Lewis after what we've seen this year. I think throughout a lot of the year, Paul Lewis has kind of been put into some shoes that he's not necessarily meant to fill as kind of a third scorer. At least Vanderbilt kind of hoped, I think. I think Paul Lewis is better as a ball handler and a true point guard, and I think a lot of people would echo that sentiment, but he's kind of been thrust into a role that maybe he isn't entirely built for. Today, I think he did a nice job kind of handling some of the pressure when Ezra Magnon was off the floor. Felt like at times when he went off the floor, they were going to have a really difficult time, but they actually went on a run, I think an 8-0 run in the second half without him on the floor. So Paul Lewis, I think, was an orchestrator at times today, and you saw what he could be when he's in that primary ball handler role, even with another ball handler next to him. With Isaiah West, I think both those guys did a nice job. Vanderbilt turned it over 17 times, which I think was a difference today. I think Memphis only had 9. Vanderbilt shot it a lot more than Memphis at times. It shot it better than Memphis, but Memphis, I think, gave itself more possessions down the stretch and ultimately shot it a lot more than Vanderbilt did and got to the free throw line more than Vanderbilt did. I think that's probably where I see the difference on the stat sheet. Again, where I see the difference is learning how to win as well. We talked about that last year at times with Vanderbilt, but it went 1 for 12 from the field down the stretch. It's hard to win games that way when you're shooting 1 for 12 in your last 12 field goal attempts and you're missing free throws late in the game. You have young guys on the line like J.Q. Roberts, who probably shouldn't be the guy on the line there. Vanderbilt, I think, obviously has some kinks to work out, but you saw the intensity they play with today. You saw guys making plays in isolation, them sharing the ball against a press and against them doubling the ball handler. It felt like Memphis was late on a couple rotations, and what was the last time this year you saw guys be late on a rotation against Vanderbilt? I don't know that I've seen it as many times as I would have hoped if I'm a Vanderbilt fan. Vanderbilt, I think, really took advantage of some things that Memphis did defensively, handled ball pressure somewhat well. It turned it over a lot, which I think Memphis, that's what it wanted to accomplish, but Vanderbilt came out and stuck it to Memphis early in this game when it felt like Vanderbilt may have gotten run off the floor. That is a really nice performance for them, and the fact that their best performance is in a loss probably doesn't say great things, especially since Memphis isn't a perfect team and it's lost some bad games, although Memphis has won some really good games as well, beat 3 ranked teams in a row, including Texas A&M. I think Vanderbilt actually played Memphis better than Texas A&M did, so that tells you maybe something. The record still stands, 4-8 stands. Vanderbilt's lost 4 in a row. But I think you leave today feeling a lot better than you would have if Vanderbilt had lost this game by 20 and been uncompetitive. I think pretty much everyone externally expected this to be somewhat of an uncompetitive game, and Vanderbilt competed. Vanderbilt kept its head above water when Memphis threw a punch. Vanderbilt threw a punch back, and that's kind of where I see this game and think, well, maybe they got something. Where they have something for sure is Jason Rivera-Torres. It's a little confusing to me that he didn't play in the first half. I know guys make mistakes. He fouled a guy on a 3 on Wednesday night, and that obviously probably hurt his time at playing today. Probably hurt him with some other mental mistakes defensively too. He got blown by Caleb Mills late, so he's not a finished product offensively or defensively. He took some bad shots. But the good thing for Vanderbilt is most of those bad shots went in. He had a 4-point play to get in this game and really negated the loss of Ezra Manjon. At that point, had 2 other tough shots, but I think both were over 2 guys. Jason Rivera-Torres is a guy who I think a lot of people around the country and a lot of people around the Nashville community are really starting to gravitate towards. And if you ask me, Jason Rivera-Torres could be like a face of the program type guy for them in a few years. It's going to take some developing. Shot selection's got to get better. I think he's got to be able to play within the offense a little more, and he's got to be able to guard better. I think that's probably the big thing. But man, he is talented. He is really talented, and we saw that today. Vanderbilt probably isn't in this game as much as it was without Jason Rivera-Torres doing what he did, and he got a few big rebounds late. I think he's the guy who really gives them a lot of things. I think Colin Smith's loss was felt today. David Jones went for 28. I think Colin Smith would have been the guy who was assigned to him for at least a little bit of the game, especially if he was going off like that early. Not having him was huge, especially in terms of just battling on the glass a little bit. Tomlin had a few big threes as well. Colin Smith, I think, could have guarded him. I don't think Vanderbilt wins this game necessarily if Colin Smith's on the floor, but he certainly could have helped. So could Van Allen Lubin, who had a groin strain, and obviously a really odd hour before the game, we got word that he wasn't going to play. And then about 10 minutes later, we got a text that said, well, he's in warm-ups. Then it was said that he's going through warm-ups, the game time decision. He went, and he really battled. He had 2 fouls early. I think it was interesting to see Jerry Stackhouse keep him in the game with 2 fouls. He had 4 guys with 2 fouls in the first half. Most of them, I think all of them but Carter Lang, went in the game in the first half with 2 fouls. Kind of shows you where his depth is at and how much he's confident in the rest of his roster. But I think it's a interesting psychological thing. I think Stack knew he had to have this game, and he had to at least be competitive in this game. And I think Vanderbilt did that. I think Vanderbilt found ways to keep chipping away at Memphis leads and keep punching back when Memphis did. And I think that says a lot. I don't know if I've even mentioned Ezra Manjon a whole lot. Ezra Manjon, outside of David Jones and even exceeding David Jones at times, was the best player on the floor today. That looked like March of 2023 Ezra Manjon, who was getting to the basket. When Vanderbilt needed to stop a run, he would get in the paint, he would get fouled, or he would get a layup. He assisted Jason Rivera-Torres in transition a couple times. Ezra Manjon was phenomenal today, and I have a quote from Bill Raftery. Let me see if I can find it. I think I don't know if it sums up Ezra Manjon super well, but I think it's a good quote. He said, "My goodness, can he shake with the best of them? Big time ticker as well." That was tweeted by Joe Rexrode. I love that. And Ezra Manjon, I think, deserves as much credit as he can get as the head of a 4-8 team. I don't think Ezra Manjon is the root of any of these problems. I don't know that he should be Vanderbilt's best player. I think you're maybe in trouble if your best player is Ezra Manjon at times, although he is a really, really good player. That's a guy who is in Vanderbilt's program. He does everything right. I mean, Ezra Manjon is a guy who he's got probably the most effort on the roster. He seems to do the right things. You can see him on the floor being a leader. He deserved a game like that on the big stage, and it's not really a surprise to me that happened. I think Jerry Stackhouse should be singing his praises because I don't know where Vanderbilt would be without him. You saw what they did against Arizona State without him, and it wasn't pretty. And you saw what they did when he was a little bit hampered. He looks fully healthy to me now, and he looks like he is really in a rhythm. He was really gunning it. He was running up and down the floor. Vanderbilt's not in this game without Ezra Manjon. It's not in this game without Jason Rivera-Torres, and I think those guys really propelled it to playing loose and playing with some energy. So did Tasos Kamateros, who had 11 points early, was really, really making shots early and getting good looks. That's the guy that they put the ball in the hands of late. I think, did he miss one of those free throws? But having the ball in his hands and having a veteran presence like that late in the game is, I think, pretty impactful. That's not a matchup that he matched up super well in, but I think Tasos Kamateros, again, really nice piece for them. Probably not your starting center ideally, but good piece. Vanderbilt falls to Memphis, has some big performances from some of its main guys. I don't know that Tyron Lawrence was excellent today. I think there's a lot of complaints about his defense and at times his effort. But, I think eventually you'll see Tyron Lawrence do some things that are more characteristic of what he did last year. He did a few more of those things today, had a really nice finish. That was assisted by Ezra Manjon again. Ezra Manjon, everywhere in this game, did a lot of unbelievable things, and Vanderbilt's not where it is without him. Big game for Vanderbilt's confidence as it heads into the break. I think if it got blown out, there's a lot of questions about Stack, even more so than they were. Vanderbilt, though, I think in a better spot now as it heads to play Dartmouth. Looks to snap a 4-game losing streak on the 30th. And SEC play comes. If you play like this in SEC play, you're going at least 500. I'm going to be completely straight up with you. 500 at least if you're playing like this. Do I have confidence that they're going to play like that? Probably not. But we've seen this team do it before. I don't know that I'm going to bet on them doing it again. I don't think they have the dogs they had last year, especially with Colin Smith out. But I think you feel about as good as you can today after losing to Memphis. So thank you guys for watching. God bless. And Billy's got you guys on the 30th. I'll get you for Alabama, and I'll be there for pretty much every game moving forward beyond Alabama once I get back from school. Thank you guys for watching. God bless. And I will talk to y'all soon. Peace.